So Chris and I, we're on the road. We've got a bunch of drones with us. We're headed to the Woodstock Square where they film Groundhog Day. So we're gonna get some Punxsutawney Phil shots with a bunch of drones. Chris, what did we bring today?
What's up, guys? We got the Mavic 3, the Air 2S, the Mini 2, and the Autel Evo 2.
All right, so we're gonna fly these drones, similar paths, put them to the test, and let you guys decide which ones you think are best. So if we're lucky, we'll run into Ned Ryerson or maybe even Bill Murray. The Woodstock Square is a great little place to film. Love the movie Groundhog Day, so it was a lot of fun. Now, these 4 drones are all very different, and we're not going to tell you which one is best, right? That is kind of a unique thing. We're going to help you decide which one is best for you. They all have their pluses and minuses. Stay tuned. Okay, so the first stop on our little adventure here is the Woodstock Opera House. Great little building, and it did, of course, show up in the movie Groundhog Day. Now, this is the 4th video we've used, so yes, this is a little Groundhog Day-esque. Anyway, to the footage. Here we go with the Mavic 3. Nice little shot. Some lens flares popping up in the center of the image. Some people like that stuff. Lots of people don't. Being shot in 5.1K. Next up is the little guy, the Mini 2, shot in 4K here. All of these drones are being shot at their highest resolution, 30 frames a second. Then we're producing it in 4K, and then YouTube is going to crush it as they compress it. So just kind of keep that in mind. And here we have the Air 2S being shot in 5.4K. 30 frames a second. Slightly different vantage point. Now, Chris and I were both flying. It was a cold day, about 30 degrees. We both, we're kind of tag teaming on the drones here. And last but not least, the Evo 2, some lens flares going on in the middle. So if the shots aren't identical, it's because we were both doing some flying. Now, next up, we're moving to the center of the square where Bill Murray was getting his groove on in that bandstand or gazebo. And we thought it would be a nice spot to just kind of orbit around, right? Now with the Mavic 3, this orbit was done manually. Actually, Chris was flying this, and actually a really nice, smooth manual orbit. It was done manually because we didn't have the quick shots and the active track and all those features that were released later with the firmware update. Now we've got the little drone, the Mini 2. Now this guy at about $450, bang for your buck. This thing is pretty darn awesome. But it does a nice little job, and this was done via the quick shots. You draw a little box around your subject. You tell it to go. You tell it how fast. Now, it wasn't perfect, but it does a decent job. Now, here we have the Air 2S. Same thing. We're using a quick shot here to do that. This time, we're rotating around a little bit faster. Slightly different perspective than the last one. But, yeah, I'm going to give you some of my opinions, but really, they're all excellent drones. I think each one of them serves a different purpose. And last but not least, we've got the Evo 2 here. There are 2 different ways to do orbits with the Evo 2. You can kind of fly to the center, set a point, and then move back, and then do your orbit from there. Or like DJI, you can, highlight the subject and then tell it to orbit. Now we're doing a top-down shot. I want you to notice with the Mavic 3, all the Mavic 3 shots at 5.1, we've got different aspect ratios, so black bars on the top and the bottom. Now when we switch to the Mini 2, you lose those black bars because we're using the full 16:9 of that shot. I'd encourage you to kind of pause the video, look around, zoom in, take a look at some of the details you see in the cars. This is the Air 2S. This bird's eye top-down view. One of my favorite shots. Something I would recommend you do if you're getting into photography. Go up high, point the camera straight down, and fly over it. Find a line, find something to follow. Pretty fun. Now we're going to move to another fun building on the square, this little courthouse, old jailhouse combo. We're doing just kind of a back and away. Chris is again flying this manually. You'll notice some lens flares in the lower right hand corner. I really do like the colors that this Hasselblad color science has. Here we have the Mini 2, and as the sun kind of move down, it really kind of kills this smaller sensor. Mini 2 does fantastic in full light situations, but it really just kind of struggles as the sun goes down. Now here we have the Air 2S. We got a lens flare in the lower right hand corner. A lot of that has to do with the position of the sun and just kind of the way that things were angled. Messing around with the F numbers sometimes will help with that. And last but not least, we've got the Evo 2 backing away. You'll notice, I think in the Air 2S as well as the Evo here, we saw some abnormalities kind of dancing around in the bricks. So there was a little bit of that to deal with, but kind of a nice little finishing shot from the square. Now as the sun set, we got a nice little shot of the square with the lights with the Mavic 3 here. Just the 4/3 sensor just does a great job in lower light situations. You know, the 1-inch sensors aren't too bad either, but when we kind of compared the Mini 2, it's okay, but you know, here we go, we're going to zoom in a little bit, 2x zoom, and it just, at that point, it's not really much of a usable image. Even in, this isn't a fully dark night. This is a nighttime situation, just lower light. So we wanted to get, you know, a nighttime, real dark situation. We've got some contrast with these lights flashing. This is a fun little neighborhood, not the square, but not too far from it. We put the 3 larger drones to the test, starting here with the Mavic 3. Again, we're shooting in the highest resolutions for all these drones, so this is 5.1K. Just kind of panning up and around. And again, this was actually a really cold night, probably 20 degrees. So Chris and I are both flying again, and so they're not exactly the same because you got 2 pilots, 2 different sets of imaging. But you know, we tried to plan these shots out so they're pretty close. I do really like the color here with the Evo 2. I was pleasantly surprised in how it looked. Now I think this is an interesting shot here with these. We get a little closer to the lights and they kind of flash on and off. And I think with the Mavic 3 here, you see a little more detail in the driveways and in the grass than you do here with the Air 2S. It just doesn't seem to pick up quite as much. I think the Evo 2 actually does a pretty nice job of picking up some of the details, but I would probably give the edge to the Mavic 3 in terms of detail. Now, looking at it here, it looks good. We're going to zoom in here in just a second. And, now as you zoom in, you can kind of see a little bit more noise. Actually, with all 3 of the drones, you will, but I also think you see a little bit more detail with the Mavic 3. Now, here, the Air 2S, we're going to kind of give this one a similar run. Zooming in here, you get a little bit of graininess, kind of in the darker areas, but still pretty darn good. The Air 2S is bang for your buck. If you need something that can shoot in low light, I would say the way to go. And the Evo 2, again, nailing these shots at night, looking pretty darn crisp. Even when we zoom in here, still looking pretty good. Now, again, you can denoise these things in post. I didn't bother. Now, I'm going to give you some shots where you can kind of look at all 4 of these drones at once. I'll let you kind of just look and compare and come up with your own conclusions. Okay, so the question is, which one's best for you. And I think for a lot of people, actually, the Mini 2 is the way to go. You get a 31-minute flight time and awesome range. You get a great camera, and it's $450. It is just so much cheaper. It's more portable. It's less than 250 grams, so you get away with a lot more. You don't have to register. There are a lot of rules. And I think a lot of those situations weren't as tailored to the Mini's strong suits, right? Some of these videos that you're looking at here, this is where I think it really shines. We took the Mini out on a nice bright day. We flew that bridge. We're flying over the water. It just looks really good on a nice sunny day. So, if you're new to drones and you're thinking about getting into the hobby, this is the place to start. It's just a really nice drone. It has some really nice features. And at the end of the day, it's not going to break the bank. Now, it doesn't have the obstacle avoidance, and it doesn't have the larger sensor, so it's not going to do well at night. But, if you're just flying during the day and you're just kind of getting into it, it's a pretty awesome drone. Now, the next one I'd recommend, probably the Air 2S. That's, I think, the best bang for your buck in terms of if I want to do some semi-professional quality stuff, I want this one. With the 1-inch sensor, we get some obstacle avoidance. It has an excellent flight time, a great range, and a really good camera. It just takes good pictures and video. And while I don't think the color right out of the box is as nice, but you can always do some color grading and bump it up a little bit. Now, the Evo 2 Pro is no slouch, and I really do like the camera on it. It's a little bit more expensive than the Air 2S, but a lot cheaper. It's still a lot cheaper than the Mavic 3, and it does have one thing going for it that none of the other drones do. There is no geofencing. So what geofencing is, if you're not familiar, you can't fly in zones that DJI has deemed you shouldn't fly in, right near airports and things like that. But sometimes they're mismarked and mislabeled, and that is super frustrating if you want to fly. You can get around it with a song and dance, but you shouldn't have to. And here is the Mavic 3 with its incredibly impressive flight time of 46 minutes. It's got the Evo beat by just a little bit in terms of flight time. And that 4/3 sensor is pretty awesome. It also has that other telephoto lens, which is super cool. You can really zoom in on things with that. But I just really like the color coming out of this drone. You don't really have to do much. You can shoot in regular automatic settings if you want. But it is an expensive drone, starting at like $2,200 or, up to $5,000 if you want this Cine package. But if I was hard pressed, like, hey, which one of these has the best camera? Yeah, it's the Mavic 3. And while I think the Mavic 3 needs a little bit of work, it's already coming, right? DJI has already improved this drone tremendously. Now, it was not, I don't think, a finished product when it was released, but it's getting better. And all these drones, they do get better with time. So hopefully this was helpful, right? Maybe this helps you figure out which one you want. So if you're interested in buying one of these, make sure you check out the links down below. They're affiliate links. They help support this channel. And if you haven't already, check out our website, halfchrome.com. Plus, we give away a drone once a month to a lucky Patreon subscriber. Hey, thanks for watching, everyone. Good luck and happy flying.